The research station floated quietly above the pale blue planet of Artus. It was small and isolated, a cluster of metal buildings linked by narrow walkways and bright observation domes. Outside, stars scattered across the dark sky like tiny diamonds, and the planet below shimmered with rivers and forests. Arun stood at the edge of the observation deck, hands resting on the railing, and let out a soft sigh. The air was cold, even inside the station, and he could feel the faint hum of the engines through the metal under his fingertips. He had been on Artus for nearly 3 months, working as a technician. His main job was maintaining the station's power systems, the solar arrays, and the communications antennas. It was routine work, but it was lonely. The station was too small to hide from anyone, and the crew was quiet, polite, and efficient, but mostly distant. Humans were rare in this sector, and Arun often found himself speaking to walls just to feel a little conversation. One day, while walking past the medical bay, Arun saw Sara, the alien medic. She was tall and slender, with pale green skin that shimmered faintly under the fluorescent lights. Her eyes were large and golden, and they seemed to see everything at once. Unlike humans, she had no hair, but a smooth, shiny head that reflected the light in sharp angles. She moved with calm precision, examining medical records, adjusting instruments, and checking patients' vitals with quiet skill. Arun had watched her work many times and admired her focus. Arun had learned that Sara belonged to a species called the Varan. The Varan were known for their logic and discipline. They rarely laughed, rarely smiled, and rarely acted on instinct. Every movement they made was careful, calculated, and efficient. They valued knowledge and precision above all else. Arun thought they were fascinating, but also a little intimidating. He decided to visit the infirmary that day to check the station's energy diagnostics. As he stepped inside, he noticed Sara adjusting a glowing panel on a medical scanner. She looked up and gave a small nod of recognition. Arun smiled. "Hello, Sara," he said, his voice warm. "I hope I'm not disturbing your work." "You are not disturbing anything," Sara replied, her voice smooth and even. "The sensors are functioning within normal parameters. Your presence is noted." Arun chuckled. "Noted? That sounds serious. I was hoping you would let me borrow your medical scanner for a few minutes. I need to check some energy readings from the station's core." Sara considered him for a moment, her golden eyes scanning him carefully. "You may use the equipment, Technician Arun. Be precise." Arun nodded and moved toward the scanner. He was always careful around Varan equipment. It was sensitive, and one mistake could cause a system failure. As he worked, he could feel Sara's gaze on him. It was not unpleasant, but it made him aware of every small movement he made. After a few minutes, Arun leaned back and smiled. "All done. That was quick, wasn't it?" Sara's head tilted slightly. "Efficiency is expected." Arun laughed softly. He liked making jokes, even if most of the crew did not understand them. Then an idea popped into his mind. He had been reading old human stories on the station's computer, stories of potions, magic, and mischief. A smile grew on his face. "You know," he said casually, leaning on the scanner, "I read about something humans used to do on Earth. They called it a love potion. It was supposed to make someone fall in love with you if you gave it to them." Sara looked at him without moving her head. "A love potion?" "Yes," Arun said, with a playful grin. "It was just a joke, of course. But imagine if it worked. I could give one to you, and then you would think I was the most fascinating human on the station." For a moment, the room was silent except for the quiet hum of the scanner. Arun expected her to ignore the joke. Most Varan would not respond to humor. But then, unexpectedly, Sara spoke. "You have already given me one," she said, her voice calm but with a strange note that made Arun freeze. Arun blinked. "Wait, what?" You have already affected my mind and body in ways similar to what you described, Sarah explained. Your presence causes reactions that I cannot fully explain. You did not use a potion, technician, but the effect is similar. Arun laughed nervously. That's not possible. I was just joking. I did not do anything. I mean, I am not a magician or anything. Sarah did not laugh. She tilted her head slightly and examined him with those golden eyes. Humans have qualities that are biologically and emotionally powerful. Your jokes, your tone, your movements, they all release signals that affect those around you. It is not intentional, yet the effect is real. Arun felt his face grow warm. He had never expected this reaction. No human had ever had this kind of effect on a Varan before. He scratched the back of his head and tried to hide his nervous smile. So, you are saying I accidentally gave you a love potion? Sarah's eyes did not waver. If that is how you choose to describe it, yes. The term is accurate in effect, not in method. Arun stared at her, unsure whether to laugh or panic. He had made a harmless joke, but somehow it had turned into a serious observation about human influence. He realized that humans were different from the aliens he had worked with before. Humans could connect, influence, and resonate in ways technology could not measure. For the next few minutes, Arun and Sarah worked in silence. He focused on the scanner, pretending nothing unusual had happened. But he could feel a quiet tension in the air, a subtle awareness that his presence mattered more than he had imagined. It was both thrilling and unsettling. Finally, Arun spoke, trying to lighten the mood. Well, I guess that makes me dangerous, doesn't it? I need to be careful around you, or I might cause a station-wide crisis with my love potion powers. Sarah looked at him calmly. Do not underestimate the human ability to influence. It is more than playful jokes. It is a force of connection. Arun smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and surprise. Humans were often underestimated by other species. On Earth, he had seen it many times. But here, on this distant station among stars, he was beginning to understand that humans were special. Not because of strength or weapons, but because of presence, emotion, and connection. The moment passed, and Arun returned to his work, but he could not stop thinking about Sarah's words. Something about humans was powerful, subtle, and important. And somehow, in a place so far from home, he had learned that even a joke could reveal the truth about human potential. The stars outside the observation deck glimmered, and Arun felt a quiet excitement for the days to come. He did not know what the future held on this station, but he knew that with humans like him and beings like Sarah, every day could be extraordinary. After that day in the infirmary, Arun could not stop thinking about what Sarah had said. Her words echoed in his mind as he moved through the station. Every time he passed the observation deck or the corridors that led to the labs, he remembered the calm, golden eyes of the Varan medic. He had never felt quite like this before. On Earth, jokes were just jokes. Here, in the silence of the stars, they had revealed something unexpected. Arun tried to continue his work as usual. He inspected power conduits, adjusted energy matrices, and ran routine diagnostics on the station's systems. But even during these tasks, he felt Sarah's presence in subtle ways. He noticed that when she was nearby, his heartbeat seemed steadier, his thoughts clearer, and a strange warmth filled his chest. It was not discomforting, but it made him more aware of his surroundings. He found himself glancing toward the medical bay more often than was necessary. Sarah, on the other hand, acted with her usual calm efficiency. She maintained the station's health systems and monitored the crew, performing her tasks with precision. Yet Arun began noticing small changes in her behavior. She paused slightly when he entered the infirmary. Her scans took a little longer when he was nearby, and she sometimes gave answers that seemed softer, almost human. Arun wondered if he was imagining it. One quiet morning, Arun decided to confront the situation. He entered the infirmary with a casual smile and called out, "Sarah, may I ask you something?" Sarah looked up from her work, golden eyes focused on him. "You may ask," she said. Her voice was smooth, as always, but there was a hint of curiosity. "About that thing you said the other day," Arun began, rubbing the back of his neck. "You said I gave you a love potion? I mean, it was a joke, but are you serious?" Sarah paused, placing her instruments down. She regarded him carefully, as if weighing her response. "You did not intend to influence me, Arun. Yet your presence and behavior have caused measurable effects. Physiological responses have altered. Emotional states have shifted. Cognitive patterns have changed. These reactions are consistent with the description of what humans called a love potion." Arun's mouth went dry. "Wait, so you're saying I actually affected you?" "You have," Sarah replied simply. "Your actions and words released signals and cues that my species cannot normally interpret. These signals affected my neural and biochemical systems. It was not magic. It was not intentional. It was human influence." Arun could hardly believe it. Humans had always been underestimated in space. Other species often considered humans weak, impulsive, or insignificant. Yet here was a Varan, one of the most logical and disciplined beings he had ever met, admitting that his presence had an effect she could not explain. He felt a strange mix of pride and nervousness. I did not mean to," he said, trying to smile. "I was just joking. I did not think anything would happen." Sarah's head tilted slightly. "Intent is not required. Influence exists independently of intention. The human capacity to affect others is not fully understood. You are capable of connection and reaction that even advanced species cannot replicate." Arun took a deep breath. He was beginning to understand that humans were different. It was not physical strength that set them apart. It was something more subtle. Something that allowed humans to reach out, touch minds and hearts, and leave an impression simply by being themselves. Over the next few days, Arun observed Sarah more closely. He noticed subtle changes in her routine. When he entered the infirmary, she sometimes paused mid-task. Her scans became more precise when he assisted her. She even asked questions that seemed unnecessary for the procedure, but he realized she was trying to understand him. The Varan medic was studying human behavior, and he was the subject. One afternoon, while Arun was repairing a power relay in the main lab, Sarah approached him. "Arun," she said, her voice calm but direct, "I have reviewed your interactions over the past several days. The effects on my system are consistent and persistent. I am recording this for research purposes. Your presence affects my biochemical balance and cognitive state. This phenomenon is unusual and significant." Arun set down his tools, intrigued. "So, you're saying I am special?" Sarah paused. "Special is a human term. Accurate would be more precise. Humans possess qualities that can influence, connect, and alter the perception and state of other species. Your effects are subtle but undeniable. They cannot be controlled fully, yet they exist." Arun smiled, feeling a strange pride. For the first time, he realized that humans had a unique power. It was not strength or technology. It was presence. It was emotion. It was connection. He had always thought humans were ordinary, but in space, among advanced species like the Varan, they were remarkable. That evening, Arun stayed late in the observation deck. He watched the planet below shimmer with rivers of light, reflecting the last rays of the distant sun. Stars dotted the sky, and the station hummed quietly. Sarah arrived, silent as always, standing beside him. She did not speak immediately, but her eyes followed the patterns of light on the planet's surface. Finally, she spoke. Your observations about human behavior are correct. You affect others without effort. You cause reactions that are both emotional and physical. It is not intentional, yet it is real. Arun chuckled softly. So, my joke was accurate. Sura's gaze met his. Yes. The effect is real. It is not a potion. It is you. The moment felt strange but comforting. Arun had not expected such honesty, such clarity, or such recognition from a Varan. He realized that humans were not insignificant, as some other species might believe. They were capable of subtle, yet profound, influence. The station, the stars, and even distant worlds could not diminish what humans could achieve through connection. Over the next several days, Arun and Sura worked more closely together. She allowed him to assist with medical scans and procedures, observing his actions with meticulous care. Arun found himself explaining small jokes, stories from Earth, and human customs. Sura recorded everything, analyzing reactions, and sometimes asking questions that seemed to probe beyond science. Arun began to understand that their interactions were changing both of them. The alien crew noticed the shift as well. While most of them were polite, some whispered about Arun's effect on Sura. They had never seen a Varan respond to a human in this way. Arun felt a mixture of pride and caution. He did not want to cause problems, yet he understood that humans had powers beyond what technology could measure. Late one night, Arun returned to his quarters and reflected on the events of the past week. Humans were underestimated in the galaxy, often dismissed as simple and fragile. Yet here, on the edge of known space, they were extraordinary. He thought about Sura's words, her honesty, and the calm way she had admitted the truth. He realized that connection, understanding, and presence were tools humans possessed, tools that could reach across species and worlds. Arun smiled as he lay down to rest. The stars outside his window twinkled in the dark, and he felt a quiet confidence. For the first time in his life, he understood that being human was more than survival. It was influence, it was connection, and it was the quiet power to change the world simply by being oneself. And somewhere in the quiet halls of the station, Sura observed him, analyzing, recording, and learning. She was a scientist, a medic, and a Varan. Yet she had begun to understand that humans were not ordinary. They were remarkable in ways that even the most advanced species could not fully measure. The bond between the human and the Varan medic had begun. It was subtle, unspoken, and powerful. And in the vast emptiness of space, it promised that ordinary moments could carry extraordinary consequences. The days passed quietly on the research station, but Arun felt a change in the atmosphere. Sura, the Varan medic, moved with her usual precision, but there was something different about her manner. She lingered slightly when he approached. Her golden eyes, which once studied only facts and measurements, now observed him in detail, noting every small action, tone, and gesture. Arun could feel her attention without her speaking a word. It was subtle, yet undeniable. Arun returned to his usual tasks with renewed awareness. He checked energy conduits, maintained communications arrays, and monitored life support systems. Even as he worked, he sensed that Sura was nearby, often watching, listening, or quietly analyzing. At first, it made him uncomfortable. Humans rarely felt watched so intently. But over time, he began to feel a strange comfort in her presence. There was no hostility, only observation. One afternoon, Arun entered the infirmary to deliver a maintenance report. Sura was adjusting a medical scanner, her movements precise and deliberate. Arun cleared his throat and spoke. "Sura, may I ask you something personal?" Sura looked up, her head tilting slightly. Personal inquiries are permissible if relevant to understanding the subject. Arun hesitated. "I was wondering, how do you feel when I am around? Do you notice anything different in yourself?" Sura paused, setting down her instruments. Her golden eyes studied him carefully. Your presence causes physiological responses that are unusual for my species. My heart rate, neural activity, and chemical balance shift when you are nearby. I am aware of these changes and find them both intriguing and unexplained. Arun's eyebrows rose in surprise. So it's true. I really do affect you. Yes, Sura replied calmly. The effects are measurable. They are consistent across repeated observations. They are subtle, yet persistent. Your actions, voice, and demeanor produce reactions that my species cannot typically experience. This is not intentional on your part, yet it is real. Arun leaned against the scanner, a mixture of amazement and disbelief on his face. He had always known humans were special, but he had never imagined the effect could be so pronounced on a Varan. Humans were often underestimated in space. Many species considered them fragile or insignificant. Yet here, in a quiet infirmary far from Earth, the truth of human influence became evident. Sura continued, her tone calm but filled with curiosity. Your presence alters my decision-making patterns and attention focus. I observe increased efficiency in tasks that involve your participation. Your humor, though not fully comprehended, creates emotional responses that influence my judgment. This phenomenon is unprecedented in my records. Arun chuckled softly. So basically, I make you distracted. Sura's head tilted slightly. Distracted is an imprecise term. You enhance awareness of emotional stimuli while simultaneously affecting physiological state. Your effect is neither harmful nor accidental. It is simply human. For the first time, Arun felt a sense of pride in being human. It was not about strength, technology, or skill. It was about presence, connection, and the ability to affect others without intent. He realized that humans were extraordinary in ways that even the most advanced species could not fully measure. Over the next few days, Arun noticed changes in Sura's routine. She began spending more time analyzing data from interactions with him. She asked questions that were outside her usual protocols, questions about human behavior, speech patterns, and social cues. Arun provided answers with a mixture of humor and seriousness, unaware that each response was being meticulously recorded and studied. One evening, the observation deck glowed with the soft light of the distant sun. Arun stood there, watching the planet below. Rivers glimmered, forests stretched across the landscape, and small clouds drifted lazily. Sura approached and stood beside him, silent as always. After a moment, she spoke. I have reviewed your interactions for several days. My observations indicate that your presence not only affects my physiological state but also my cognitive processes. My decision-making efficiency is altered. My emotional responses are heightened. I am compelled to observe, analyze, and respond differently than usual. Arun smiled, leaning on the railing. So, you're saying humans are special? Yes, Sura replied, humans possess qualities that influence others in ways that cannot be replicated by technology or deliberate action. Your existence produces reactions that are subtle, persistent, and undeniable. Arun laughed softly. He had always thought humans were ordinary. Now, on a quiet station above a distant planet, he realized that humans carried power in ways no one expected. The ability to connect, to influence, and to resonate with others was something unique. Something important. Over the next week, Arun and Sura worked more closely together. She allowed him to assist in medical scans and procedures. He learned how to operate the equipment under her guidance. Each time, Sura observed his reactions and recorded data meticulously. Arun found himself explaining small stories from Earth, anecdotes of daily life, and humor that Sura did not fully understand but reacted to nonetheless. The other crew members began to notice subtle changes in Sura. She sometimes paused mid-task when Arun entered the room. Her responses to routine situations seemed slower, more thoughtful. Arun realized that his influence was extending beyond private observation. His presence was altering her behavior in ways that others could see. One afternoon, the captain of the station summoned Arun to the command center. "We have observed the effects you are having on Sarah," the captain said. "Your presence seems to alter her behavior. We are not certain why, but we want to ensure that it does not disrupt station operations. Can you explain?" Arun hesitated, unsure how to explain something so subtle. "Captain, it's not intentional. Humans, we affect others without meaning to. Sarah is unusual because she notices it and responds in ways other species might not. I am careful, and I do not interfere with her work." The captain studied him carefully. "So it is natural?" "Yes," Arun replied. "It is just human." The captain nodded slowly, clearly intrigued. "Very well. Continue your duties and maintain observation. The implications of this human influence are remarkable." Arun left the command center with a mixture of relief and pride. Humans had always been underestimated, yet here, in a remote corner of the galaxy, their subtle power was becoming clear. Arun understood that humans could inspire, influence, and connect in ways that technology and logic could not replicate. That night, Arun returned to the observation deck. He stared at the stars, the distant glimmer of other planets, and the vast expanse of space. Sarah joined him, standing quietly beside him as she had many times before. The silence was comfortable, filled with understanding rather than words. Finally, Arun spoke softly. "You really are curious about humans, aren't you?" Sarah tilted her head, golden eyes reflecting the stars. "Curiosity is the basis of understanding. Humans produce reactions that are both fascinating and significant. I must study these reactions to comprehend your species fully." Arun smiled. "Well, I guess that makes me your experiment." "You are not merely an experiment," Sarah said calmly. "You are an example. Your existence demonstrates the subtle power of humanity. Influence exists without effort, and connection exists without intent. This is a phenomenon I must understand." Arun looked out at the stars and felt a quiet confidence. Humans were special. They could inspire, connect, and change the world simply by being themselves. And in the quiet halls of the research station, Sarah, the Varan medic, was learning that influence could exist in the smallest gestures, the simplest jokes, and the presence of a human being. The bond between Arun and Sarah continued to grow. It was quiet, unspoken, and subtle, yet it carried a profound understanding. Humans, Arun realized, were more than ordinary. They were extraordinary in ways that even advanced species could not measure. The quiet rhythm of the research station changed subtly over the following days. Arun continued his daily work, maintaining systems and assisting in various tasks, but he noticed a shift in the behavior of the other crew members. They were humans and aliens from several different species, all highly trained, but now they looked at him and Sarah with curiosity, even suspicion. Small whispers filled the corridors when he passed by. No one spoke openly, but their glances told a story. Arun first noticed it while delivering energy reports to the station's control room. Myra, a human engineer, gave him a strange look. "Have you noticed Sarah's unusual behavior?" she asked quietly. Arun raised an eyebrow. "Unusual behavior? What do you mean?" Myra hesitated, lowering her voice. "She seems different around you. She pauses when you enter a room. Her scans take longer. And she sometimes asks questions that seem out of place." Arun laughed nervously. "That's Sarah. She's meticulous. She notices everything. That's all." Myra shook her head. "No, it's more than that. I've seen it myself. It's like you influence her." Arun stopped, considering her words. Influence. Could that be possible? He remembered her calm confession that he had already given her a love potion without intending to. That was the first time he truly realized how different humans were in space. A simple presence, a joke, a gesture could have a profound effect. Later that day, Arun entered the infirmary to check a minor medical scanner issue. Sarah was adjusting equipment as usual, but Arun noticed she seemed slightly more focused, as if she had been preparing for his arrival. "Sarah," he said casually, "everything all right?" "Yes," she replied, her tone calm, yet there was an unspoken awareness in her words. "Your presence is noted, Arun." Arun smiled awkwardly. "Noted, huh?" Sarah continued to adjust the scanner, but her eyes briefly flicked toward him. Arun noticed the small pause in her routine. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, yet it confirmed what Myra had suggested. His presence affected her behavior, her focus, her efficiency. It was undeniable. Word of Arun's influence spread quietly among the station crew. Some expressed concern, wondering if it could interfere with medical protocols or operational efficiency. Others were fascinated. They began observing Arun and Sarah's interactions from a distance, noting the small but measurable changes in her behavior. One morning, Arun was called to the station's command center. The captain, a tall Varan named Lyris, waited with a small group of senior crew members. Arun approached cautiously. "You wanted to see me, Captain?" "Yes, Arun," Lyris said, her voice calm but firm. "We have observed your interactions with Sarah. Your presence appears to influence her behavior in ways we cannot explain. We must understand this phenomenon to ensure it does not interfere with station operations." Arun nodded slowly. "I understand, Captain. I am careful. I do not intend to affect her in any way. It just happens." Lyris studied him, golden eyes analyzing his every expression. "We are aware. That is why we are concerned. Your presence produces changes in her physiological state and her decision-making patterns. This is unusual for any human interaction with a Varan. We must monitor it carefully." Arun felt a mix of pride and nervousness. Humans were often underestimated, dismissed as simple or fragile by advanced species. Yet here, the station's command was acknowledging the subtle, yet powerful effect a human could have. It was remarkable, but it also carried responsibility. After the meeting, Arun returned to his quarters. He thought about the words of the captain and Myra's observations. Humans were different, not because of physical strength or advanced technology, but because of presence and influence. Small gestures, humor, and conversation could leave an impact that was profound and unexpected. Meanwhile, Sarah continued her work with meticulous care. She adjusted monitors, ran diagnostic scans, and recorded data, but she did so with a subtle awareness of Arun. Her efficiency remained high, but she allowed herself brief pauses, moments of observation, and slight changes in her routine that she noted and recorded. Arun began noticing these small deviations. They were never large, never disruptive, but they were enough to prove what she had told him: humans were special. One evening, Arun walked through the corridors of the station and overheard two Varan crew members speaking quietly. "Do you notice Sarah's behavior around a human technician?" one asked. "It is unlike anything I have seen. She is more attentive, more reactive. I have observed her scans taking longer and her responses adjusting subtly." The other nodded. "It is remarkable. The human's presence produces measurable changes. This is unprecedented. We must continue observation, but it is clear humans are unique." Arun felt a quiet thrill. Humans had always been underestimated in space. They were rarely considered capable of extraordinary influence. Yet here, on this distant station, he was discovering the truth. Humans could inspire, affect, and change others without effort or intention. It was a subtle power that no advanced technology could replicate. The next day, Arun entered the infirmary with a maintenance report and found Sarah already waiting. She did not speak immediately but handed him a tablet displaying her latest observations. Arun glanced at the data and saw detailed graphs showing subtle changes in her heart rate, neural activity, and attention focus during their interactions. "You have recorded all this?" Arun asked in surprise. "Yes," Sarah replied calmly. "The effects are measurable. I am documenting them to understand your species. Humans possess abilities that are both subtle and significant. Your influence is real, consistent, and persistent." Arun felt a mixture of awe and humility. He had never considered that ordinary humans could have such power. It was not magic or potion, as he had joked, but something far more profound. It was presence, connection, and subtle influence. Later that afternoon, the crew gathered in the main hall for routine briefings. Arun noticed glances exchanged between crew members when Sarah entered the room. It was quiet, careful, but full of awareness. They had begun to understand that humans were different, capable of altering behavior and influencing others simply by being themselves. Arun felt a strange responsibility. This was not a power to use recklessly, but a gift to respect. As the station's artificial sun set, casting long shadows across the corridors, Arun reflected on the events of the day. Humans were underestimated in the galaxy, often overlooked in favor of strength, speed, or technology. Yet here, in a quiet station among stars, humans were remarkable. Their influence could reach across species, create connections, and inspire reactions that could not be measured by instruments alone. Arun returned to the observation deck, looking out at the planet below. Rivers glimmered like silver threads, forests stretched endlessly, and clouds moved slowly across the sky. Sarah joined him, silent as always. She stood beside him, not touching, not speaking, yet her presence was undeniable. Finally, Arun spoke. "It seems the whole station is noticing something about us." Sarah tilted her head, golden eyes reflecting the soft light. "Observation is essential to understanding. Your influence extends beyond private interactions. It is subtle, but measurable. The crew recognizes this, even if they cannot fully explain it." Arun nodded slowly. "Humans really are special, aren't they?" "Yes," Sarah replied calmly. "Your species produces effects that others cannot replicate. Presence, connection, and influence exist naturally within you. It is remarkable, and it must be understood." The bond between Arun and Sarah grew stronger, though unspoken. It was subtle, yet undeniable. Humans, Arun realized, carried a quiet power that could reach across species and worlds. The research station hummed softly around them, unaware that a simple human presence was already creating ripples of change, curiosity, and respect among the crew. The quiet tension aboard the research station grew over the next few days. Arun continued his work, assisting with maintenance and occasionally helping Sarah in the infirmary. The other crew members, both human and alien, had begun noticing the subtle changes in the Varan medic's behavior. Her attention seemed divided, her scans occasionally delayed, and she sometimes asked questions unrelated to her tasks. Whispers followed Arun wherever he went. One morning, the captain, Lyris, called Arun to the command center. The chamber was bright, with monitors showing the station's status and the distant planet below. Lyris stood with a group of senior officers, her golden eyes focused and sharp. Arun approached cautiously. "Technician Arun," Lyris said calmly, "we have observed the effects you are having on Sarah. Her behavior is changing in your presence, and the crew is concerned about potential interference with operations. We must understand the situation." Arun nodded. "Captain, I assure you, I am not trying to interfere. I am careful. It is just, the way humans are. I don't know why, but Sarah responds to me in ways that are natural, not intentional." Lyris studied him for a moment. "You are suggesting that your presence alone can affect a Varan? That this is an inherent human trait?" "Yes," Arun replied. Humans can influence others without trying. It is subtle, but it happens. I don't want to cause problems. I just exist, and Sarah responds to that. Leary's considered his words, then nodded slowly. Very well. We will observe, but you must continue to perform your duties without causing disruption. Arun left the command center feeling a mixture of relief and unease. Humans were special, yes, but this recognition brought responsibility. If his presence could alter Sarah's behavior, he had to be careful not to let it affect the station's operations or the crew's trust. Later that day, Arun returned to the infirmary. Sarah was running diagnostic scans on a newly installed medical module. She noticed him and paused. Arun, she said, her voice calm, we need to discuss the observations with the captain. The effects are real and measurable. My species has never experienced this. Others must understand the influence humans possess. Arun frowned slightly. Do you think they will believe it? They will, Sarah replied. I will present the data. I will explain the phenomena in terms they can understand. Your influence is subtle, but consistent. It is not harmful, yet it is remarkable. The next morning, a meeting was convened in the central hall of the station. Crew members gathered, curious and cautious. Leary stood at the front, with Arun and Sarah nearby. The room was quiet, filled with anticipation. Sarah stepped forward, placing a tablet on the table. I have conducted detailed observations over the past weeks, Sarah began, her voice steady. Technician Arun's presence produces measurable changes in my physiological and cognitive state. These changes are consistent, subtle, and reproducible. They include alterations in heart rate, attention focus, and decision-making patterns. The effect is not intentional, nor is it caused by technology or external stimuli. It is the result of human influence. The crew listened in silence. Some exchanged looks of astonishment. A few Varan officers whispered to each other, clearly surprised. Humans were often underestimated, seen as fragile or simple. Yet here, Sarah was presenting undeniable evidence of human uniqueness. Arun stepped forward cautiously. Captain, I want to make it clear that I never intended this. I am careful in all my work. My actions are normal for humans, but the response is not controlled. Sarah is simply affected by being around me. It is natural for humans to influence others in subtle ways. A Varan officer raised a question. Is this influence dangerous? Could it compromise medical protocols or operational efficiency? Sarah shook her head. No. The influence is subtle and does not compromise function. In fact, it can enhance understanding and cooperation. Humans possess qualities that allow connection and resonance with other species. These qualities can be valuable, not harmful, if recognized and understood. Another crew member, a human engineer, spoke up. So you're saying humans can influence Varan behavior just by being themselves? Yes, Sarah replied. It is a natural human trait. Influence exists without intent. Connection occurs through presence, tone, and subtle signals. Arun's effect demonstrates this clearly, and it is remarkable. It must be acknowledged, studied, and respected. The room was quiet for a moment. Then, slowly, the crew began to understand. Humans were not ordinary. They carried abilities that were subtle yet profound. Influence and connection were as powerful as technology, strategy, or strength. Arun felt a sense of pride, tempered with humility. Leary's addressed the group. We will continue to observe, but we recognize the uniqueness of humans. Arun's influence is real and measurable. It is not harmful. It is a demonstration of the subtle strengths that humans bring to the station and the galaxy. Arun exhaled quietly. The tension that had built over days lifted slightly. Recognition from the captain and the crew was important, but more than that, it confirmed what he had begun to realize: humans were extraordinary in ways that did not always rely on strength or technology. Over the next few days, Arun and Sarah worked closely together, their bond strengthened by understanding and trust. Sarah allowed him to assist in more complex procedures. She explained her observations and data collection methods in detail, and Arun offered insights from a human perspective. The crew observed, quietly fascinated. Arun noticed that Sarah seemed more relaxed around him now. She still maintained discipline and focus, but her movements had small deviations that indicated comfort. Pauses became natural, and she sometimes offered small, rare smiles that were almost imperceptible. Arun realized that trust and understanding were forming, bridging the gap between species. The other crew members began to interact with Arun differently as well. They asked questions, sought advice, and observed the subtle interactions between him and Sarah. Some humans joked quietly about the love potion effect, and Arun laughed along, careful not to overstate the influence. Yet the crew's respect for human abilities grew. One evening, as Arun walked through the observation deck, he looked down at the planet below. Rivers shimmered, forests stretched endlessly, and the atmosphere glowed with soft light. Sarah joined him silently. The stars above reflected in her golden eyes. "You have explained human influence well to the crew," Arun said quietly. "Do you think they understand?" "They understand the phenomenon," Sarah replied calmly. "Humans possess abilities that are subtle, yet significant. Influence, connection, and reaction occur naturally. The crew now recognizes this. Your actions have demonstrated what humans can achieve simply by existing and interacting." Arun smiled. "I never imagined something as simple as being myself could matter so much." "It does," Sarah said softly. "Humans are remarkable. Influence exists where intention is not required. Connection exists even without awareness. Your presence demonstrates these qualities. It is extraordinary, and it is real." Arun felt a quiet pride in his chest. He had always thought humans were ordinary, often underestimated in the galaxy. But here, on a distant station, far from Earth, he realized humans were capable of subtle, profound influence. They could inspire, connect, and affect even the most disciplined species without effort. The bond between Arun and Sarah deepened. It was quiet, unspoken, and subtle, yet it carried a powerful truth. Humans were extraordinary, not because of strength or technology, but because of presence, connection, and the ability to resonate with others. The day began with quiet anticipation on the research station. Arun had received a message from Sarah requesting his assistance in the medical bay. The Varan medic had prepared a special experiment to study the subtle effects humans could have on other species. Arun felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had never imagined that his presence could be measured scientifically, and now he was part of a real experiment designed to prove it. When Arun entered the medical bay, Sarah was already setting up instruments. She moved with calm precision, adjusting scanners, monitors, and sensors. The room smelled faintly of antiseptic, and the soft hum of equipment filled the space. Arun took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Good morning, Arun," Sarah said, her voice steady but with a hint of anticipation. "Thank you for participating in this experiment. Your presence will be observed and recorded to measure its effects on Varan physiology and cognitive patterns." Arun smiled. "Good morning, Sarah. I hope I don't break anything." "You will not," Sarah replied calmly. "The equipment is prepared to handle variations. We are measuring subtle changes in heart rate, neural activity, and attention focus. Your natural human presence is the variable." Arun positioned himself on a small platform designed for observation. Sensors were attached to his wrists, chest, and head. Sarah moved efficiently, ensuring that each instrument was calibrated. Arun noticed that some of the monitors displayed graphs and charts that seemed incredibly detailed. "Are you ready?" Sarah asked. "I think so," Arun said, though a small part of him was nervous. He had never been the subject of a scientific experiment like this, especially one that measured his influence on an alien species. Sarah nodded and activated the recording sequence. Soft lights illuminated the room, and the monitors began to display real-time data. Arun could see small fluctuations on the screens, though he did not fully understand them. "Begin interaction," Sarah instructed. "Speak naturally, move as you normally would, and respond as you would in conversation. No deliberate manipulation is required. Your presence is the focus." Arun smiled nervously. "All right. I can do that." He began by telling a simple story from Earth, a small anecdote about life on his home planet. He added humor, laughter, and gestures as he spoke naturally. Sarah observed carefully, taking notes and monitoring the sensors. Arun noticed subtle changes in her expression, the slightest shifts in attention, and minor deviations in her routine. It was almost imperceptible, yet the equipment recorded every fluctuation. Minutes passed, and Arun continued to interact naturally. He told stories, asked questions, and moved about the room casually. The monitors displayed changes in Sarah's heart rate, neural patterns, and attention focus. Arun was amazed. His presence, without effort or intention, was producing measurable effects on Averin. Sarah paused and adjusted a monitor. "The data indicates that your presence enhances attention focus and emotional responses. Heart rate and neural activity fluctuate consistently during your interaction. These changes are subtle but reproducible. The phenomenon is clear and significant." Arun blinked in surprise. "So, it really works? My presence is affecting you?" "Yes," Sarah replied calmly. "The effects are measurable and consistent. Your actions, voice, and natural behavior produce changes that are not common for Varen subjects. This demonstrates the subtle power of human influence." The other crew members watched from a small observation window. Some whispered quietly, clearly fascinated. They had never seen an experiment like this before. Humans were often underestimated in space. They were considered fragile or simple, yet here, in a controlled experiment, a human's presence was producing real, measurable effects on an advanced species. Arun continued interacting with Sarah, telling stories about Earth, joking quietly, and sharing observations about life on the station. Sarah observed each movement and recorded each response meticulously. Arun noticed that her attention sometimes wavered slightly in ways he had seen before, small pauses and deviations that now had a clear explanation. His presence was influencing her cognition and physiology. After several minutes, Sarah stopped the recording. "The experiment is complete," she said. "The results confirm that your presence affects my physiological and cognitive systems. The data is consistent with previous observations. Human influence is real, measurable, and subtle. It produces effects that even advanced species cannot replicate naturally." Arun exhaled slowly. "I never imagined something as simple as being myself could matter so much." Sarah nodded. "It is not about intention or effort. Influence exists naturally in humans. Connection occurs through presence, tone, and behavior. Your example demonstrates this clearly. It is extraordinary." The other crew members entered the medical bay to review the data. They examined the monitors, charts, and recordings carefully. Whispers of amazement filled the room. A Varen officer spoke first. "The data is undeniable. The human presence produces measurable changes. This is unprecedented. We must continue to study these interactions further." A human engineer smiled quietly. "I always knew humans were special, but I didn't think it could be this obvious." Arun felt a mixture of pride and humility. Humans had always been underestimated, yet here they were demonstrating a quiet, profound influence that could reach across species and space. It was subtle, powerful, and entirely natural. Sarah turned to Arun. "Your participation is invaluable. This experiment confirms the significance of human influence. It is not magic, nor potion. It is connection, presence, and the natural ability to affect others. You have demonstrated this clearly. Arun smiled, feeling a warm sense of purpose. He had always thought humans were ordinary. Now, on this station above a distant planet, he understood that they were remarkable. Presence, connection, and subtle influence were powerful tools, capable of inspiring, guiding, and affecting even the most disciplined species. Over the next few days, Arun and Sarah continued similar experiments, refining the measurements and documenting results. Each session confirmed the same conclusion: human presence was powerful, subtle, and undeniable. The station crew grew more respectful and curious, understanding that humans carried abilities beyond simple physical strength or technological skill. One evening, Arun stood on the observation deck, looking out at the shimmering planet below. Rivers reflected the distant sun, forests stretched endlessly, and clouds drifted lazily across the sky. Sarah joined him, silent as always, her golden eyes reflecting the soft light. "You really are remarkable," Arun said quietly. "Humans can affect others just by being themselves. I never realized it could be measured." Sarah tilted her head. "It is not merely measurement. It is understanding. Influence exists naturally in humans. Connection occurs without deliberate action. Your presence demonstrates these qualities. It is extraordinary, and it is real." Arun nodded slowly, staring at the stars above. Humans were underestimated in the galaxy, often dismissed as simple or fragile. Yet here, on this quiet station, humans had proven something remarkable. They could inspire, connect, and influence even advanced species without effort. The bond between Arun and Sarah grew stronger, founded on trust, observation, and shared understanding. It was subtle, unspoken, and powerful. Arun realized that the quiet strength of humans lay not in weapons, speed, or technology, but in presence, empathy, and connection. The quiet hum of the station filled the corridors as Arun made his way to the observation deck. The recent experiments had changed the atmosphere on the station. Crew members, both human and alien, were no longer whispering with concern or curiosity. Instead, they watched Arun with respect and fascination. The experiments had proven something remarkable: humans possess subtle, natural influence that even advanced species could not replicate. Sarah was already on the observation deck, standing near the railing that overlooked the distant planet. The golden light of the setting sun reflected across her eyes. She turned as Arun approached. "Arun," she said calmly, "the crew has reviewed the data from our experiments. They have witnessed the results firsthand. The influence you exert is recognized and understood. Humans are remarkable in ways that were previously underestimated." Arun smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. "I never expected this. I thought humans were ordinary. Just people doing their best. And now," he paused, looking out at the planet below, "it seems we are extraordinary without even knowing it." Sarah's gaze remained steady. "Extraordinary is a human term. Accurate is more precise. Your species demonstrates qualities that produce measurable effects across species. Connection, influence, and subtle resonance exist naturally in humans. These qualities are valuable, powerful, and remarkable." Arun took a deep breath, watching the rivers shimmer on the planet's surface. "It feels strange to be recognized for something so normal. I never thought that just being myself could matter so much." "It does," Sarah replied softly. "Being oneself is not simple. Influence occurs without intention. Connection exists even without awareness. You have demonstrated these qualities. They are extraordinary in their own right." The other crew members joined them on the observation deck. Myra, the human engineer, smiled and nodded toward Arun. "You've shown everyone what humans can do," she said. "It's subtle, but it's powerful. We've always known humans were special, but this proves it." A Varan officer stepped forward, voice calm but filled with curiosity. The data, combined with our observations, confirms that humans produce unique effects. This is not limited to your interaction with Sura. The potential for human influence is broader than we anticipated. Arun, you have demonstrated a capability that other species must now respect and understand. Arun felt a warm glow of pride. Humans had often been underestimated in the galaxy. They were dismissed as fragile or simple by other species, often overlooked in discussions of strategy, technology, or exploration. Yet here, on a station far from Earth, the truth was undeniable. Humans had influence, presence, and connection built into their very nature. Over the following days, the station adjusted to this new understanding. Crew members began to seek Arun's perspective during operations, realizing that humans brought a subtle, unique skill to the table. In meetings, he offered insights that guided decisions, not through force or technology, but through intuition, empathy, and observation. The crew learned to recognize the quiet power of human connection. Sura and Arun continued their shared research, refining experiments, and recording observations. Each session confirmed the same conclusion: human presence had measurable effects. The crew had begun to appreciate the value of this influence, not as a weapon or tool, but as a strength that enhanced cooperation, understanding, and efficiency. One evening, Arun stood with Sura on the observation deck, the station bathed in the soft glow of the planet below. "I never thought humans could matter this much in space," he said quietly. "We are not the fastest, the strongest, or the most technologically advanced. Yet somehow, we make a difference." Sura's gaze remained steady. Humans matter because of presence, connection, and subtle influence. These qualities are often overlooked, but they are measurable, consistent, and impactful. You have demonstrated this clearly. The crew now understands that humans are extraordinary in ways that are not immediately obvious but are undeniable. Arun smiled, a sense of quiet satisfaction filling him. Humans had always been underestimated. Their power had often been overlooked in favor of physical strength, technological prowess, or species-specific abilities. Yet here, among the stars and on this station, the truth had been revealed. Humans were remarkable, not because of what they could build or fight, but because of who they were and the connections they created. The crew gathered for a final briefing in the main hall. Arun stood with Sura by his side, and the monitors displayed data from the experiments. Lyres addressed the group. "The influence demonstrated by technician Arun is real, measurable, and consistent. It affects even our most disciplined personnel in subtle but significant ways. This influence is unique to humans. It is neither harmful nor accidental. It is a strength that must be recognized, studied, and respected." The crew members nodded, some murmuring words of acknowledgement and admiration. Humans had always been underestimated in the galaxy. Now, the quiet strength of presence, empathy, and subtle influence was visible for all to see. Arun felt a mixture of pride and humility. After the meeting, Arun returned to the observation deck. Sura joined him, standing silently beside him as they watched the planet below. The sun dipped closer to the horizon, casting long shadows and golden light across the landscape. "You have changed how the crew sees humans," Arun said softly. "It feels strange, knowing something so small can have such a big impact." "It is not small," Sura replied calmly. "It is subtle, natural, and profound. Influence exists without effort. Connection occurs without intention. You have demonstrated this. The recognition of human strength is now established." Arun exhaled slowly. "I suppose humans always had this power, we just never realized it." "Correct," Sura said. "You have shown the galaxy, or at least this station, what humans are capable of. It is not through aggression, technology, or speed, but through being themselves. That is extraordinary." For a long time, they stood together, watching the planet shimmer below. Arun realized that the quiet power of humanity was often overlooked. Yet here, in the distant reaches of space, humans had proven that influence, connection, and subtle understanding could surpass technology, strength, and speed. The crew had witnessed it, the data confirmed it, and Arun himself felt it. Humanity was extraordinary. Not because of weapons, engines, or experiments, but because humans could connect, inspire, and influence naturally. And in that moment, Arun understood something profound: the galaxy would always underestimate humans. Yet their greatest strength was invisible, subtle, and powerful. Humans could leave lasting impressions, create understanding, and build trust across species, all without trying. The station hummed softly around them, carrying the quiet acknowledgement of human capability across its corridors. Arun and Sura remained on the observation deck, a silent team, bound by respect, curiosity, and the recognition that humans, in their ordinary way, could achieve the extraordinary. As stars glimmered above and the planet below reflected the last rays of sunlight, Arun smiled. Humans had always been underestimated, but now, quietly, undeniably, they had proven themselves. Presence, connection, and subtle influence were humanity's greatest strengths. And the galaxy had finally noticed.